The silent conference room froze as Dr. Zara Washington slammed the company-wide email onto the projection screen. Effective immediately, every crew member of Flight AC-1432 is terminated. 24 airline employees gasped at the black CEO they'd underestimated. No one saw this coming when they'd served her spoiled food in first class, laughing behind her back. They thought she was just another complaining passenger. Now she owned the entire airline. The discrimination lawsuit worth hundreds of millions wouldn't just end careers. It would change the industry forever. How did one terrible flight turn into the greatest corporate takeover in aviation history? Before we begin this shocking story, let me know where you're watching from. And if you believe in the power of justice, hit that like and subscribe button to never miss another incredible true story of triumph against discrimination. Dr. Zara Washington adjusted her Burberry blazer as she walked through the jetway of Flight AC-1432. The 42-year-old CEO of Secure Vision had purposely chosen an early morning departure to San Francisco for the biggest meeting of her career. Today's merger with Global Tech would create the largest minority-owned tech conglomerate in America, valued at over $20 billion. She'd personally designed the revolutionary AI security software that had won her company the coveted Pentagon contracts, beating out tech giants with decades more experience and infinitely more connections. Zara checked her sleek leather briefcase, ensuring she had the final merger documents that needed her personal review before landing. Her presentation had to be flawless. Too much was riding on this day to leave anything to chance. As a black woman who had fought her way through the tech industry's notoriously exclusive circles, she knew that even at her level of success, she would be scrutinized far more harshly than her white male counterparts. Walking onto the plane, she handed her first-class boarding pass to flight attendant Brandon Miller, a tall man with neatly cropped blonde hair and a smile that disappeared the moment he saw her. "Are you sure you're in first class?" he asked, examining her ticket with exaggerated scrutiny. "This is a full flight today." Zara nodded politely, used to this routine. "Yes, I'm in 2A, window seat." Brandon continued studying her boarding pass as if searching for a forgery, while passengers backed up behind her. "I'll need to see your ID as well," he said. Zara complied, noticing that the white executive who had boarded just before her hadn't been asked for additional identification. As she made her way to her seat, she overheard flight attendant Cassidy Reynolds whisper to Brandon, "Must be using company miles. They'll let anyone up front these days." Settling into her plush first-class seat, Zara remembered the countless rejections she'd faced while seeking funding for Secure Vision. Despite having graduated top of her class from MIT and holding 7 patents, investors had repeatedly passed on her company while funneling millions to less qualified white founders with inferior products. "They're just not sure if you're a good fit," one venture capitalist had told her after a pitch where she'd answered every technical question flawlessly. She'd finally secured funding from a black tech investor who recognized the potential of her security algorithm, and within 18 months, her company was profitable. 3 years later, it was valued at $6 billion. Now, as the plane prepared for takeoff, Zara opened her laptop to review the merger presentation. The global tech partnership would allow her to scale her technology globally and create opportunities for other minority entrepreneurs. As other first-class passengers received pre-flight beverages, she noticed that Brandon and Cassidy systematically served everyone except her. When she politely raised her hand after 15 minutes, Brandon walked past without acknowledging her. "Excuse me," Zara finally said as he passed for the 3rd time. "May I have some water, please?" "We're very busy with boarding," he replied curtly. "You'll have to wait until we're in the air." Yet Zara watched as he immediately served water to the white businessman across the aisle. She pulled out her phone and discreetly began to record the time and details of these interactions. Years of subtle discrimination had taught her to document everything. As the plane began its ascent, Zara took a deep breath and focused on the meeting ahead. This merger was her crowning achievement, the culmination of years of innovation and persistence. Nothing, not even the blatant disrespect of a cabin crew, would derail what she had worked so hard to build. But she couldn't have known then just how dramatically this flight would alter the trajectory of her career and ultimately transform an entire industry. 2 hours into the flight, the first-class cabin filled with the aroma of freshly prepared meals. The flight attendants began their carefully choreographed service, starting from the far end of the cabin despite Zara being closest to the galley. One by one, each passenger received their meal. The businessman in 2B was served a steaming plate of herb-crusted salmon with roasted vegetables that looked restaurant quality. The elderly couple in row 1 received perfectly presented chicken, cordon bleu. Even the college student who had been upgraded at the last minute got a beautifully arranged vegetarian pasta. Zara watched patiently, her stomach growling after rushing to make the early flight without breakfast. Finally, Brandon approached her seat with the last meal tray. "Chicken or pasta?" he asked flatly. "Chicken, please," Zara replied. The moment he set down the tray, Zara noticed something was wrong. Unlike the other meals, her chicken was an unnatural grayish color with a slimy film coating the surface. The vegetables were wilted and browning at the edges. But worst of all was the smell, a sour, pungent odor that indicated the meat had spoiled. Zara looked up at Brandon, who was already turning away. "Excuse me," she said calmly. "I think there might be an issue with this meal. The chicken appears to be spoiled." Brandon turned back with an exaggerated sigh. "The chicken is fine. That's how it's supposed to look." "I don't think so," Zara persisted. "It has an unusual color and odor that suggests it's not safe to eat." Brandon rolled his eyes. "Some people are just too particular. Nothing is ever good enough." The businessman across the aisle glanced over, clearly able to smell the rancid food from his seat. He frowned but said nothing. Chief Flight Attendant Melissa Turner, a stern-looking woman with tightly pulled-back hair, approached after noticing the discussion. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, her tone suggesting Zara was creating a disturbance. "The food I've been served appears to be spoiled," Zara explained, gesturing to the clearly rancid chicken. Melissa barely glanced at the plate. "I think you must be confused about what first-class food should taste like," she said with a condescending smile. "This is our premium catering, not fast food." Zara felt her cheeks warm, but maintained her composure. "I'm not confused about food safety. This chicken isn't just undercooked, it's spoiled. Could I please have the pasta option instead?" "We're out of pasta," Melissa replied, though Zara had just seen them load extra meals into the galley. "You can either eat what you've been served, or go hungry. It's a 5-hour flight." Several passengers were now watching the exchange. Most looked uncomfortable, but one man, later identified as investment banker Tyler Jenkins, actually snickered. As Melissa and Brandon walked away, Zara heard Brandon mutter, probably used to fast food anyway. The comment was just loud enough for her and nearby passengers to hear. Zara discreetly took photos of the spoiled food with her phone, adding them to her documentation. She'd faced similar treatment before, like the time she'd made reservations at an upscale restaurant for a business dinner, only to be seated next to the restrooms despite the dining room being half empty, or the luxury car dealership where salespeople had ignored her until she mentioned she was paying cash. But this situation felt different, more deliberate, more malicious. She removed the napkin from her lap and placed it over the inedible food, choosing dignity over confrontation. Have you ever experienced discrimination so blatant that it left you speechless? Comment number 1 if you believe Zara should immediately confront the entire crew about their behavior. Or comment number 2 if you think she should stay calm and document everything. Hit that like button if you've ever had to maintain your composure in the face of disrespect. And subscribe to see more stories of resilience against discrimination. What would you do if you were served spoiled food while everyone around you got fresh meals? And just how far would these flight attendants take their discriminatory behavior? The situation is about to take a terrifying turn that nobody saw coming. 40 minutes later, Zara began to feel the first wave of discomfort. Despite rejecting the visibly spoiled chicken, she had eaten a bread roll and some of the salad, which had appeared safe. Now a dull pain spread across her abdomen, intensifying with each passing minute. She shifted uncomfortably in her seat as sweat beaded on her forehead despite the cabin's cool temperature. Trying to remain calm, she pressed the call button. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes. The pain sharpened dramatically, causing her to double over. She pressed the call button again, holding it down longer this time. After 15 excruciating minutes, Brandon finally appeared at her seat, making no attempt to hide his annoyance. "Yes?" he asked flatly. "I'm not feeling well," Zara managed between shallow breaths. "I think something was wrong with the food." "I already told you the food is fine," Brandon replied dismissively. "Everyone else is enjoying their meal without complaints." But Zara wasn't just uncomfortable now, she was in serious distress. The pain had intensified to knife-like stabs, and she felt a dangerous lightheadedness overtaking her. Cold sweat drenched her designer blouse as she hunched forward, her vision blurring at the edges. "Please," she gasped. "I need medical assistance. I think I'm having a severe reaction." Brandon sighed theatrically. "I'll check if there's a doctor on board, but you're probably just experiencing routine turbulence anxiety." As he walked away unhurriedly, Zara reached for her purse with trembling hands. Inside was a partially eaten bread roll she'd wrapped in a napkin when she began feeling ill. Even in her distressed state, she'd had the presence of mind to preserve evidence. Looking at it now under the cabin light, she could clearly see blue-green mold spots on the underside that hadn't been visible when served. Her heart raced with panic. She had a documented severe allergy to certain molds. This information was in her passenger profile, which the airline required for precisely these situations. Brandon returned after several more minutes, still showing no urgency. Zara held up the moldy bread with a shaking hand. "Look," she said, her voice barely audible. "There's mold. I have a severe allergy. It's in my passenger profile." Brandon's eyes narrowed. "You must have brought that on board yourself. Our bread is fresh." "I need my medication," Zara said, urgently. "It's in my carry-on in the overhead bin. I can't reach it myself right now." Brandon looked at the overhead bin, and then at his watch. "I'm serving beverages to the other first-class passengers right now. You'll have to wait." The businesswoman across the aisle couldn't remain silent any longer. "Are you serious?" she said, standing up. "This woman needs help now." She turned to Zara. "I'm Dr. Elaine Murphy. I'm a physician." Dr. Murphy knelt beside Zara's seat and quickly assessed her condition. "She's going into anaphylactic shock," she announced loudly. "Which bag is yours?" she asked Zara. "The black Toomey in the overhead," Zara whispered, her lips beginning to tingle and swell, another dangerous symptom of her allergic reaction. "Get it down immediately," Dr. Murphy commanded Brandon, who still hesitated. "If you don't assist right now, I'll make sure you're held responsible for whatever happens next." Faced with a direct medical order from another passenger, Brandon reluctantly retrieved the bag. Dr. Murphy quickly found Zara's emergency kit containing an EpiPen. "I'm going to administer epinephrine," she told Zara professionally, but with genuine concern. This should help within minutes. As the doctor administered the life-saving injection, other passengers began recording the scene on their phones. The severity of the situation and the crew's negligence was now being documented from multiple angles. Melissa rushed over, suddenly, attentive now that there were witnesses and potential liability. "What's happening here?" she demanded. "A severe allergic reaction to moldy food that was served on this flight," Dr. Murphy stated firmly. "Food that this passenger was told was fine when she questioned its safety. She could have died without intervention." Zara's breathing began to ease slightly as the epinephrine took effect, but she remained dangerously ill. Melissa's demeanor changed instantly. "We need to inform the captain," she said with newfound concern. "We'll arrange for medical personnel to meet the aircraft upon landing." "That would be appropriate," Dr. Murphy replied coldly, "along with documenting this dangerous negligence." The confrontation had captured the attention of everyone in first class and several passengers in the business section behind them. Phones continued recording as Brandon and Cassidy suddenly scrambled to appear helpful, offering water and blankets they had denied just minutes before. As Zara's immediate danger subsided, the magnitude of what had just happened began to sink in. This wasn't just discourtesy or casual racism. Their deliberate negligence had nearly killed her. 20 minutes after receiving the epinephrine injection, Zara's condition had stabilized enough for her to sit upright, though she remained pale and shaken. The cabin's atmosphere had transformed dramatically. What had been indifference or subtle hostility from the crew had morphed into nervous attentiveness. Brandon hovered nearby, repeatedly asking if she needed anything, his previous contempt replaced by transparent fear. Dr. Elaine Murphy hadn't left Zara's side, monitoring her vital signs with professional precision. "Your blood pressure is still lower than I'd like," she murmured, "but your breathing has normalized. The epinephrine is working." The cockpit door opened, and Captain James Wilson emerged, moving purposefully toward Zara's seat. In his mid-50s, with silver temples and the confident posture of someone with thousands of flight hours, he projected an authority that had been notably absent among his cabin crew. "Ma'am, I'm Captain Wilson," he said, crouching beside her seat to meet her at eye level. "I've just been informed about your medical emergency. I want to personally assure you that we're diverting to Dallas to have medical personnel meet the aircraft. Your health and safety are our absolute priority." His concern seemed genuine, a stark contrast to the cabin crew's behavior. "Thank you, Captain," Zara replied, her voice still weak. "I appreciate your intervention." "Can you tell me what happened?" he asked, his expression serious. Dr. Murphy answered first. She was served food containing mold despite having a documented severe allergy in her passenger profile. When she began showing symptoms of anaphylaxis, the cabin crew delayed providing assistance for over 15 minutes. Captain Wilson's face darkened. "That is completely unacceptable. I assure you I'll be conducting a full investigation." He turned back to Zara. "Ms. Dr. Washington," she corrected gently. "I'm the CEO of Secure Vision." Something flashed in the captain's eyes. Recognition, perhaps surprise. "Dr. Washington, I deeply apologize for what you've experienced. This does not reflect our airline's standards. I'll personally file a report and ensure this is addressed at the highest levels." As the captain returned to the cockpit to coordinate the diversion, Dr. Murphy leaned closer to Zara. "I should mention," she said quietly, "I'm not just a physician. I'm also an aviation attorney specializing in passenger rights cases." She slipped Zara a business card. "Document everything. The timestamps on your phone, the photos of the food, witness statements. I've already spoken with 3 other passengers who recorded the crew's response, or lack thereof, during your crisis." The plane began its descent toward Dallas as Zara's phone buzzed with incoming messages. Her executive team had been notified about the emergency landing and were sending a company car to meet her. Global Tech had agreed to postpone the merger meeting until she could safely arrive. Against all odds, the most important business deal of her career was still on track. Several passengers approached to offer their contact information as witnesses, expressing outrage at how she'd been treated. Tyler Jenkins, the investment banker who had snickered earlier, notably avoided eye contact, suddenly fascinated by his laptop screen. Brandon and Cassidy maintained their distance, whispering urgently to each other in the galley. Only Melissa made periodic appearances, her smile strained as she assured Zara that medical personnel would be waiting. For the first time since boarding, Zara felt a sense of control returning. The captain had acknowledged the wrongdoing. She had medical care, witnesses, evidence, and the support of other passengers. While still physically weak from the allergic reaction, she felt the strength of vindication building within her. As the aircraft touched down in Dallas, Captain Wilson made an announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've landed at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport to provide medical assistance to a passenger. Emergency personnel will board first. Please remain seated until they've completed their assessment." True to his word, paramedics boarded within minutes of landing, efficiently transferring Zara to a wheelchair while confirming Dr. Murphy's initial treatment had been appropriate. Before leaving the aircraft, Zara looked back at the cabin crew lined up near the exit. Their faces showed a mixture of concern and apprehension. Captain Wilson shook her hand, again promising a full investigation. As the paramedics wheeled her up the jetway toward the terminal where her team waited, Zara allowed herself to believe the worst was behind her. The airline would surely take disciplinary action against the crew. She had survived and would still make her merger meeting. Justice, it seemed, would be served through proper channels. She had no way of knowing that this ordeal was far from over. In fact, it was about to escalate beyond anything she could have imagined. After being examined at the airport medical facility, Zara was cleared to continue her journey on the next flight to San Francisco. Her executive assistant had already rebooked her on a departure leaving in 2 hours, giving her time to recover. In the airline's premium lounge, settled in a quiet corner with her laptop, Zara was reviewing the merger documents when she overheard a familiar voice. Captain Wilson stood near the lounge entrance, speaking urgently into his phone. Normally, Zara would have respected his privacy, but something in his tone made her pause. "Yes, sir. I understand the situation is delicate," the captain was saying. "The passenger in question is apparently some big-shot CEO." Zara remained perfectly still, straining to hear the conversation that was clearly about her. "Headquarters is already involved," Wilson continued. "Legal wants to get ahead of this before she can make any formal complaints." There was a pause as he listened to whoever was on the other end of the call. "I've already documented that she appeared disoriented before meal service, possibly intoxicated, though I can't confirm that personally." Zara's blood ran cold. She had not consumed any alcohol before or during the flight, and the captain had never observed her before her allergic
reaction.
He was deliberately falsifying his report. "The crew maintains they served her the same meal as everyone else," Wilson continued. "If she's claiming discrimination, we need to shut that down immediately. These people are always looking for a handout or a chance to play the race card." The casual contempt in his voice was unmistakable. "Richards in legal thinks we can discredit her completely, make it look like she brought her own food on board, caused a scene, then tried to blame our crew when she got sick." Another pause. "Yes, Melissa is already asking first-class passengers for statements saying Dr. Washington was behaving erratically. Several seemed cooperative." Zara could barely process what she was hearing. The captain, who had seemed so concerned, so professional, was actively participating in a coordinated effort to blame her for her own near-death experience. As Wilson ended his call and disappeared down the corridor, Zara opened her laptop with new purpose. She navigated to the airline's corporate structure, quickly identifying Richard Hamilton as the CEO. A few more searches revealed a troubling pattern. 5 discrimination lawsuits against the airline in the past 3 years, all settled quietly with non-disclosure agreements. Using her company's secure browser, she accessed public records that showed Hamilton had personally intervened in 2 cases involving high-profile minority passengers. Her phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Murphy. "Flight crew is approaching. Passengers from our flight in the terminal, asking leading questions about your behavior. They're building a case against you. Be prepared." Zara's tech experience had taught her to recognize coordinated attacks, and this had all the hallmarks of one originating from the highest levels. Whatever discrimination she had faced from the cabin crew was now being institutionally reinforced by airline leadership. The realization struck her with clarity. This wasn't just about one bad flight crew or a spoiled meal. She was facing a systemic effort to discredit her rather than acknowledge racial bias. When her phone rang, she was surprised to see her merger partner's number. "Zara, there's something you should know," said Michael Chen, Global Tech's CEO. "I just received a very strange call from an airline representative claiming you had created a disturbance on their flight, and they wanted to warn me about potential liability issues of partnering with Secure Vision." Zara's grip tightened on her phone. "They contacted you directly?" "Yes, and they mentioned our merger specifically. They knew details that aren't public yet." The airline wasn't just trying to discredit her. They were actively attempting to sabotage the biggest deal of her career. Have you ever discovered that what you thought was an isolated incident was actually part of a larger conspiracy? Comment number 1 if you believe large corporations should be held accountable for systemic discrimination. Or comment number 2 if you think Zara should focus on her business deal and let this incident go. Hit that like button if you believe in standing up against injustice no matter how powerful your opponent, and subscribe to see more stories of courage in the face of corporate corruption. With the airline now actively trying to destroy both her reputation and her company's future, what could one woman do against such a coordinated attack? And was there something even more sinister behind this discrimination than Zara yet realized? As her departure time approached, Zara needed to act quickly. The airline's attempt to contact her merger partner had escalated this from personal discrimination to corporate sabotage. Drawing on her background as a security systems expert, she opened her laptop and activated a specialized program. First-class cabins on major airlines utilized dedicated Wi-Fi networks for premium passengers. As CEO of a cybersecurity firm with government contracts, Zara had tools most passengers couldn't. Imagine, she wasn't planning to hack the airline's secure systems, that would be illegal. But passenger communication channels were another matter. Within minutes, she had connected to the plane's archived Wi-Fi logs from her original flight, data that was technically accessible to any passenger who knew where to look. What she found confirmed her suspicions. A series of text messages between crew members during the flight told the damning story. Before takeoff, 2A is another one who doesn't belong up front. Let's see how she likes special service, Melissa had written. Brandon had replied, already on it, keeping her thirsty until meal service, saving something special for her plate too. Later messages were even more explicit. After Zara had questioned the spoiled food, she actually thought she could complain about our first-class treatment. Taught her a lesson about where she belongs, Melissa had texted to the entire crew. Most disturbing were the messages during her medical emergency. Probably faking it for attention. Make her wait, followed by, don't rush with the med kit. Let her sweat a bit. Then chillingly, photos of her in distress had been shared among crew members with laughing emojis. Zara downloaded everything, securing the evidence before sending it to both her company's legal team and Dr. Murphy with the message, documented discrimination and deliberate medical negligence. Call me ASAP. Her next call was to Senator Michaela Johnson. They had met at a tech policy conference years before and maintained a professional relationship since Zara's company began securing government networks. Michaela, I need your help, Zara explained the situation concisely. They're trying to destroy my reputation and sabotage a multi-billion-dollar merger because I dared to object to being served spoiled food. This is beyond disturbing, the Senator replied. Hamilton Airlines has a troubling history. They've been on the Transportation Committee's radar for discriminatory practices. Send me everything you have. I'll make some calls. As she boarded her new flight to San Francisco, Zara maintained a deliberately subdued demeanor. Let the airline think she was defeated, retreating to lick her wounds. The more they underestimated her, the greater her advantage would be. She noticed how differently this crew treated her, with professional courtesy and attentive service. The contrast only highlighted the deliberate nature of her previous experience. Midway through the flight, an unexpected ally appeared. Tyler Jenkins, the investment banker who had snickered during her confrontation on the previous flight, approached her seat. Dr. Washington, he said quietly, may I speak with you for a moment? Her instinct was to dismiss him, but something in his wide eyes expression gave her pause. I owe you an apology, he said, sliding into the empty seat beside her. My behavior earlier was inexcusable. Yes, it was, Zara agreed coolly. I'm actually on the advisory board at Pinnacle Investments, Jenkins continued. We've been considering a significant position in secure vision for our tech portfolio. Your company's growth metrics are impressive. This explained how he had recognized her. When I witnessed how you were treated, I should have spoken up. Instead, I acted unprofessionally. It was wrong, and I'm truly sorry. Zara studied him carefully. Mr. Jenkins, I appreciate your apology, but why come to me now? Because what happened afterward was even worse, he replied, lowering his voice. Captain Wilson approached me in the Dallas lounge, asking me to sign a statement saying you had been disruptive and appeared intoxicated. He implied that Pinnacle would receive preferential treatment from the airline's corporate account team if I cooperated. Her suspicions confirmed, Zara leaned forward. And did you sign it? No, Jenkins replied firmly. Pinnacle doesn't succeed by participating in corporate corruption or discrimination. In fact, I've documented the captain's inappropriate request. He handed her his business card. My firm would still be very interested in discussing investment opportunities with Secure Vision, particularly given your pending merger with Global Tech. As Jenkins returned to his seat, Zara permitted herself a small smile. The airline's attempts to discredit her were backfiring, creating allies where they had sought to find enemies. By the time her plane landed in San Francisco, Zara had assembled a digital fortress of evidence. The crew messages, witness statements, photos of the spoiled food, medical reports confirming her allergic reaction, and now documentation of the airline's attempts to bribe witnesses. She had leveraged her technology, expertise not to hack or attack, but to preserve irrefutable truth. Her executive team met her at the terminal with news that the merger meeting had been successfully rescheduled. Despite the airline's interference, Global Tech remained committed to the partnership. With her health recovered and her professional plans back on track, Zara felt confident that she had weathered the worst of the storm. The airline had tried to poison her, both literally and figuratively, but she had emerged stronger. What she couldn't know was that Hamilton Airlines was about to escalate their retaliation to a level that would shock even her. Zara's car pulled up to the Fairmont San Francisco hotel at 8 in the evening. After checking in and confirming her rescheduled merger meeting for 10 the next morning, she headed to her suite to prepare. The elevator doors had barely closed when her phone buzzed with an urgent message from her company's security chief. Airline filed police report claiming you threatened flight crew. Possible arrest warrant. Call legal team immediately. Before she could process this information, the elevator doors opened to reveal two uniformed police officers waiting in the hallway. "Dr. Zara Washington?" one officer asked. "Yes," she replied, adrenaline surging. "I'm Officer Daniels, San Francisco Police Department. We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of making terrorist threats against an aircraft and assaulting flight crew members." "That's absolutely false," Zara stated calmly, though her heart raced. "I was the victim on that flight, not the perpetrator. I have extensive documentation." "You can explain at the station," the second officer interrupted. "Please place your belongings on the floor and put your hands behind your back." Zara complied, conscious of how quickly this situation could deteriorate if she resisted. As the cold metal handcuffs closed around her wrists, her mind raced with the implications. The hotel lobby fell silent as guests watched the spectacle of a well-dressed black woman being led out in handcuffs. One young man recorded the scene on his phone, instinctively sensing something wasn't right. The image would go viral within hours. Dr. Zara Washington, Forbes-recognized tech innovator and CEO, being arrested in a luxury hotel while wearing a business suit. Outside, news vans were already arriving. Someone had tipped off the media. "Breaking news tonight," the reporter began as Zara was placed in the police car. "Tech CEO arrested after flight disturbance. Sources claim she became violent when asked to comply with crew instructions." The fabricated story was already being broadcast before she even reached the police station. At the precinct, Zara was photographed, fingerprinted, and placed in a holding cell while officers processed her paperwork. Her request to contact her attorney was granted only after an hour of bureaucratic delays. "They're claiming you threatened to take down the whole airline when confronted about disruptive behavior," her lawyer explained after reviewing the report. "They've provided written statements from Captain Wilson and 3 flight attendants alleging you became verbally abusive when asked to stop harassing other passengers. The charges were serious enough to potentially derail the merger." Already, Secure Vision's stock had dropped 12% in after-hours trading as news of her arrest spread. The police denied bail pending a hearing, meaning she would spend the night in custody and miss the merger meeting entirely. As Zara sat in the holding cell, the full weight of the airline's power became clear. They had transformed her from victim to criminal in the public eye. Her phone had been confiscated, cutting her off from her support network and evidence. While she waited for her legal team to navigate the system, Hamilton Airlines issued a press statement. "We take the safety of our passengers and crew extremely seriously. The behavior exhibited by Dr. Washington endangered everyone on board. We support our crew members who showed tremendous professionalism in a difficult situation." The statement was a masterclass in corporate misdirection, portraying the airline as the victim, while reinforcing the false narrative of Zara as an unruly passenger. 3 hours into her detention, an unexpected development occurred. Multiple Passengers from the original flight had seen the news and contacted the police department to contradict the airline's claims. Dr. Murphy had rallied first-class passengers to provide statements about what they had actually witnessed. Most significantly, videos from passengers' phones showing the crew's negligence during her medical emergency began circulating online, directly contradicting the airline's account. The hashtag, Justice for Zara, started trending as the public questioned why a respected CEO would suddenly become disruptive on a flight. By midnight, the inconsistencies in the airline's story were becoming apparent to investigators. The arresting officers, realizing they may have been used as pawns in a corporate vendetta, expedited her processing. When Zara's lawyer arrived, with a court order for her immediate release, citing malicious prosecution and false reporting, the police department chose not to contest it. At 3 a.m, Zara finally walked out of the police station, physically and emotionally exhausted but unbroken. Camera flashes greeted her as journalists shouted questions. Rather than flee the attention, she approached the microphones with measured confidence. What happened today was a deliberate attempt to silence me after I experienced racial discrimination and medical negligence on Hamilton Airlines Flight AC-1432, she stated clearly. I look forward to presenting the extensive evidence of both the discrimination I faced and the airline's coordinated attempt to destroy my reputation and business relationships. The truth will prevail. As her car pulled away from the precinct, Zara knew the merger meeting was lost, at least for tomorrow. What she didn't know was that the airline's heavy-handed tactics had just triggered a wave of public support that would transform her personal injustice into a national conversation about corporate accountability and racial discrimination. By dawn, the landscape had shifted dramatically. Justice for Zara had become Twitter's top trending topic nationwide, with over 2 million mentions overnight. The videos showing flight attendants deliberately ignoring her during a medical emergency had been viewed 17 million times. News outlets that had initially reported her arrest as a disruptive passenger incident were now running special segments on corporate discrimination, the Zara Washington story. Dr. Elaine Murphy had organized a united front of first-class passengers who publicly contradicted the airline's claims. What I witnessed on that flight wasn't just poor service, one executive told CNN. It was deliberate, malicious discrimination that nearly resulted in Dr. Washington's death when the crew delayed medical assistance. Tyler Jenkins made a surprise appearance on CNBC's Morning Business Show. As an investment banker who witnessed the events firsthand, I can state unequivocally that Dr. Washington conducted herself with nothing but professionalism and dignity, despite receiving treatment no passenger should ever endure. He went further, announcing that Pinnacle Investments was actively considering a significant position in Secure Vision, which we believe represents the future of cybersecurity innovation. Former Hamilton Airlines employees, emboldened by the public outcry, began coming forward with their own stories of the company's discriminatory practices. A flight attendant who had been terminated after reporting similar incidents described a culture of bias that starts at the top with CEO Richard Hamilton. Most significantly, Senator Michaela Johnson called a press conference announcing that the Transportation Committee would launch an immediate investigation into Hamilton Airlines' treatment of minority passengers. The evidence provided by Dr. Washington and corroborated by multiple witnesses suggests a pattern of discrimination that may violate federal transportation regulations, she stated firmly. We will use every tool at our disposal to ensure accountability. As these developments unfolded, Zara received a phone call from Michael Chen at Global Tech. I'm not postponing our merger meeting, he said emphatically. I'm bringing our entire executive team to your hotel in 1 hour. This partnership is more important than ever. When the Global Tech team arrived, they brought news that their board had unanimously approved the merger terms, despite the airline's attempts to raise concerns. If anything, Michael explained, watching how you've handled this crisis has strengthened our confidence in your leadership. The combined company will be stronger for having you at the helm. By noon, Secure Vision stock had not only recovered, but surged 15% above its previous close as investors recognized the company's resilience. The boycott Hamilton Airlines was gaining traction as consumers shared their own experiences of discrimination. At 2 o'clock, Zara received a call from the San Francisco District Attorney's Office. "We're dropping all charges and issuing a formal apology," the assistant DA informed her. "The evidence clearly shows the airline filed a false police report. We're now investigating them for potential criminal misconduct." By late afternoon, Zara had checked out of the Fairmont and moved to a more secure location as media requests poured in from around the world. Her story had touched a nerve, becoming a rallying point for discussions about how powerful corporations used their influence to silence victims of discrimination. A senior Department of Transportation official reached out through Senator Johnson, requesting a private meeting to discuss her experience as part of a broader investigation into the airline industry's compliance with anti-discrimination regulations. When Richard Hamilton finally attempted to contact her directly, offering a private settlement and apology, Zara declined to take his call. Instead, she directed him to her legal team, which now included 3 prominent civil rights attorneys, in addition to her corporate counsel. Dr. Murphy joined her for dinner that evening, bringing both professional and personal support. "What they didn't count on," she observed, "was that you had the resources and resilience to fight back. Most victims of discrimination don't have your platform." "Which is exactly why I can't settle quietly," Zara replied. "This was never just about one bad flight. It's about accountability for systemic discrimination that affects countless passengers who don't have my voice or resources." As she prepared for bed that night, physically exhausted but emotionally fortified by the wave of support, Zara allowed herself to believe that justice might actually be possible. The merger was proceeding, her company was stronger than ever, and the truth about Hamilton Airlines was finally coming to light. What she couldn't know was that Richard Hamilton was not a man who accepted defeat graciously, and he was about to deploy resources far beyond anything she had anticipated in a desperate attempt to salvage his company and reputation. Have you ever witnessed someone underestimate a person they discriminated against, only to face unexpected consequences? Comment number 1. If you believe public pressure should be used to hold corporations accountable for discrimination. Or comment number 2. If you think private legal action is more effective. Hit that like button if you've been inspired by someone who refused to be silenced when facing injustice, and subscribe to follow stories of courage against powerful adversaries. With public opinion firmly on her side and the merger moving forward, could Zara truly have won this battle? Or was Richard Hamilton preparing an even more destructive counterattack that would threaten everything she had built? While public opinion rallied behind Zara, Richard Hamilton retreated to his corner office on the 32nd floor of Hamilton Airlines headquarters. The 62-year-old CEO had navigated countless corporate crises during his 3-decade tenure, but never one that had escalated so quickly. "Get me Davidson at Grayscale PR," he barked into his phone. "Tell him it's an emergency containment situation." Grayscale specialized in what insiders called reputation reconstruction, a euphemism for their aggressive tactics in discrediting corporate critics. Within hours, the first phase of Hamilton's counterattack began. 3 tabloid news sites simultaneously published articles questioning Zara's business practices. "Tech CEO with history of volatile behavior," read one headline, citing anonymous, former employees who had allegedly witnessed temper tantrums. Another claimed SecureVision's government contracts were under review for security concerns, a complete fabrication, but one that sent nervous ripples through the financial markets. By evening, a coordinated social media campaign had launched, pushing hashtags like Zara the Victim and Racecard CEO. Sophisticated bots amplified these messages, creating the illusion of a grassroots backlash against Zara. "She's using her race to cover for bad behavior," read one heavily promoted tweet. "I fly Hamilton all the time and their service is impeccable," claimed another. Hamilton's influence extended far beyond public relations. As a 30-year veteran of the industry, he had connections throughout the corporate world. A series of private calls to banking executives resulted in SecureVision's lines of credit coming under routine review. The message was clear: support Zara Washington and face subtle but meaningful financial consequences. The morning after these credit reviews began, Global Tech received an unexpected call from their largest vendor, who happened to share 3 board members with Hamilton Airlines' parent company. "We're concerned about your pending merger," the vendor explained. "There are significant liability issues with Secure Vision that might affect our willingness to maintain our current relationship." Similar calls reached other global tech partners, creating a web of pressure all leading back to Richard Hamilton. Zara's merger partner, Michael Chen, called her at midnight. "Something strange is happening," he explained. "6 of our key partners have expressed concerns about the merger in the last 3 hours. None can articulate specific issues, but they're all using nearly identical language. Hamilton is leveraging his business network," Zara realized. "This goes beyond the airline now." Her suspicions were confirmed when Secure Vision systems detected a sophisticated cyber attack targeting their secure servers. The attempt was blocked by her company's own security protocols, but the digital fingerprints led to a firm with known connections to Hamilton Airlines' technology contractors. As these business pressures mounted, Zara received a disturbing call from her chief financial officer. "Our stock is under attack," he explained. "Someone's orchestrating a massive short-selling campaign against us. They're betting hundreds of millions that our value will plummet in the next 48 hours. The coordinated assault was having its intended effect." Despite public support, Secure Vision stock had dropped 17% by market close. Global Tech's board called an emergency meeting to reassess merger timelines, and 2 major clients had put their contracts on temporary hold pending resolution of recent controversies. Sitting in her hotel suite as these reports flooded in, Zara realized the true nature of what she was facing. This wasn't just about one incident of discrimination or even the airline's initial attempt to discredit her. She had stumbled onto something much larger, a corporate power structure willing to deploy every weapon in its arsenal to silence anyone who challenged its authority. Most people would have buckled under such pressure. Many would have accepted the private settlement Hamilton had offered and walked away. But Zara Washington hadn't built a multi-billion-dollar security company by retreating when threatened. Instead, she gathered her executive team, legal advisors, and a select group of allies for a strategic response. "They're not just trying to discredit me personally anymore," she explained to the assembled group. "They're attempting to destroy my company, sabotage our merger, and make an example of anyone who dares to challenge discrimination at this level." Dr. Murphy nodded grimly. "This response is disproportionate to a simple customer service incident. There's more at stake here than we initially realized." Tyler Jenkins, who had joined the meeting as a financial advisor, agreed. "Hamilton's using extraordinary resources to fight this. The question is why? What's he so afraid might come to light?" Senator Johnson's chief of staff attending on her behalf provided a crucial insight. "Our Transportation Committee research suggests Hamilton Airlines has a pattern of targeting minority business travelers. There have been multiple incidents over the past 5 years, all settled quietly with NDAs." As the group pieced together the available information, a disturbing possibility emerged. What if Zara's experience wasn't an isolated incident of discrimination? What if it was part of a systematic practice that extended throughout the company? And what if Richard Hamilton was willing to risk everything to prevent this pattern from being exposed? The next morning, as financial markets opened to continued pressure on Secure Vision stock, Zara made a decision that would transform the conflict. This would no longer be a defensive battle against Hamilton's attacks. It was time to take the fight directly to him, in a way he would never anticipate. Zara's team worked through the night, following digital breadcrumbs that connected the cyber attack on Secure Vision to Hamilton Airlines. Her security experts traced the origin to BlackRock Digital Solutions, a firm contracted exclusively by Hamilton for IT services. "This wasn't just a rogue employee," her chief security officer explained. "The attack was authorized with executive credentials. Someone at the highest level approved this." While her technical team unraveled the cyber evidence, Zara's financial analysts made a startling discovery. Richard Hamilton had personally initiated a massive position shorting Secure Vision stock 3 days earlier, before she had even boarded the fateful flight. "He's betting against your company to the tune of $30 million, her CFO explained. "The timing makes no sense unless he knew something would happen to damage our stock value." Zara finished the thought. The implication was staggering. The discrimination she experienced might not have been spontaneous bias from the crew, but part of a premeditated strategy. Further investigation revealed another disturbing connection. Tyler Jenkins wasn't just an investment banker who happened to be on her flight. His firm managed significant portions of Hamilton Airlines' pension fund and executive compensation packages. When Jenkins confirmed this relationship during an emergency call, the pieces began coming together. "I was specifically invited to take that flight by Hamilton's corporate office," Jenkins admitted. "They said they wanted to discuss potential investment opportunities, but no one from their finance team ever contacted me on board. Now I wonder if I was meant to witness your humiliation as some sort of warning." The most damning evidence came from an unexpected source. A junior HR employee from Hamilton Airlines named Dana Roberts contacted Senator Johnson's office seeking whistleblower protection. Dana had access to the airline's employee discipline records and internal communications. "There's a program they call Special Service," she revealed during a secure video conference. "It flags certain high-profile minority passengers for what they call enhanced customer experience verification." She had downloaded thousands of internal messages and reports documenting this practice before contacting the senator. The documents revealed a systematic pattern of discrimination, specifically targeting successful minority business travelers. Flight crews received bonuses for creating service differentials that would test whether these passengers deserved their premium status. The airline maintained detailed records of these incidents, tracking how many could be resolved internally without public complaints. Most disturbing was a series of emails between Richard Hamilton and his executive team, strategizing how to handle passengers who raised formal complaints. "Make it expensive for them," Hamilton had written. "Not in settlement costs, but in reputation damage. No one wins against us." According to Dana, Hamilton Airlines specifically targeted business travelers from minority backgrounds who were on the verge of major career advancements or business deals. The timing of Dr. Washington's flight with her merger meeting wasn't coincidental, Dana explained. Her name had been flagged in the system for months, waiting for the right opportunity. As Zara processed this information, another revelation emerged. Analysis of Hamilton's financial records showed he had not only shorted Secure Vision stock, but had also recently increased his position in global defense, one of Secure Vision's main competitors, and a company that had been trying to acquire Zara's proprietary technology for years. This was never just about discrimination, Zara realized. They used racial bias as a weapon for corporate sabotage. The airline had deliberately triggered a chain of events designed to damage her reputation, tank her company's stock, derail her merger, and potentially force Secure Vision into a distressed sale to Hamilton's preferred acquirer. What had begun as an incident of appalling discrimination had revealed something far more sinister. A calculated corporate conspiracy that used racial prejudice as cover for market manipulation and competitive sabotage. Zara gathered her expanding team of advisors, now including forensic accountants, cybersecurity experts, civil rights attorneys, and Senator Johnson herself. "We're not just fighting discrimination anymore," she told them. "We're exposing a criminal enterprise operating behind the facade of a major airline." With the evidence securely documented and backed up on multiple secure servers, Zara was ready to move against Hamilton. But she needed one final piece to complete her strategy, something that would transform this from a legal battle into a fundamental reshaping of power. And for that, she would need to call on resources that even Richard Hamilton couldn't anticipate. Zara called an emergency board meeting of Secure Vision, connecting remotely with her directors from a secure conference room. The typical quarterly updates and financial projections were replaced by a single agenda item: strategic response to Hamilton Airlines. "What I'm about to propose is unprecedented," Zara began, addressing the solemn faces on the video wall. "But so is the attack we're facing." Over the next hour, she meticulously laid out the evidence her team had gathered. The discriminatory treatment, the coordinated corporate response, the financial manipulation, the cyber attacks, all documented with precision. "This isn't merely about seeking damages for discrimination," she explained. "Hamilton Airlines has revealed itself as a corrupt enterprise, that uses racial bias as a smokescreen for anti-competitive practices. Our response must be proportional to the true nature of the threat. Then she unveiled her proposal. Secure Vision would use its substantial cash reserves, combined with strategic financing, to launch a hostile takeover of Hamilton Airlines. Stunned silence followed. Taking over an established airline would be an audacious move for a technology company under any circumstances. Attempting it while under attack from that very airline seemed impossible. This is not just justice for what happened to me, Zara continued. This is a strategic acquisition that protects our company from ongoing sabotage while positioning us for expansion into secure transportation systems, a market we've identified as crucial for our growth. The board peppered her with questions about financing, regulatory approval, and operational logistics. Zara and her team had answers ready for each concern. They had worked through the night developing a comprehensive takeover strategy. When Michael Chen joined the call, the plan solidified further. Global Tech fully supports this acquisition as part of our merger, he stated firmly. We'll commit additional financing and leverage our transportation industry relationships to facilitate regulatory approval. By meeting's end, the board had authorized the most aggressive response possible. A surprise bid for controlling interest in Hamilton Airlines, to be executed immediately before financial markets opened the next day. Zara's financial team worked through the night with investment banks that had no connections to Hamilton's network. By dawn, they had secured the necessary financing and prepared the required SEC filings. At precisely 8:00 a.m. Eastern Time, as financial news programs began their morning broadcasts, Secure Vision announced a tender offer for 51% of Hamilton Airlines stock at a premium of 30% over the current market price. The financial world was stunned. News anchors struggled to make sense of a technology company attempting to acquire an established airline. This unprecedented move by Secure Vision CEO Zara Washington comes days after she experienced alleged discrimination on a Hamilton Airlines flight, one reporter stammered. Within minutes, Hamilton Airlines' stock price surged as investors rushed to cash in on the premium offer. Richard Hamilton, caught completely off guard, frantically called an emergency board meeting. By the time his directors assembled 2 hours later, Secure Vision had already secured commitments for 27% of outstanding shares. The airline's largest institutional investors, seeing an opportunity for substantial profits, were breaking ranks. Desperate to block the takeover, Hamilton tried calling Zara directly. "This has gone far enough," he said when she finally accepted his call. "I'm prepared to offer a generous settlement and a public apology. We can put this unfortunate incident behind us." "This isn't about an unfortunate incident, Mr. Hamilton," Zara replied coolly. "This is about systematic discrimination and corporate sabotage orchestrated at the highest levels of your company. And it's no longer just a legal matter, it's a business transaction." Before hanging up, she added, "I suggest you update your resume." By market close, Secure Vision had secured commitments for 48% of Hamilton Airlines stock. The remaining 3% would come from a consortium of minority business leaders who had experienced similar discrimination and were eager to join Zara's coalition. Meanwhile, Senator Johnson's Transportation Committee had announced formal investigations into Hamilton Airlines' discriminatory practices, and the SEC had opened an inquiry into Richard Hamilton's suspicious stock trades. The Department of Justice was reviewing evidence of potential criminal conspiracy and wire fraud. Within 72 hours of launching her counteroffensive, Zara had not only neutralized Hamilton's attack, but had positioned herself to take control of his company. The merger with Global Tech proceeded on schedule, creating the foundation for the largest minority-owned business conglomerate in American history. What had begun as a simple request for edible food in first class had escalated into a complete restructuring of corporate power. Richard Hamilton had severely underestimated the woman he had chosen to target. Now he would face the consequences of that mistake in ways he had never imagined possible. 1 week after the successful takeover, Zara Washington walked through the gleaming glass doors of Hamilton Airlines corporate headquarters. Employees whispered as she passed, some averting their eyes, others watching with undisguised curiosity. The black woman they had only seen in news reports was now effectively their boss. Security personnel escorted Richard Hamilton and his executive team from the building as Zara ascended to the 32nd floor. Their personal items had been packed into boxes, their access to company systems already revoked. Hamilton, ashen-faced and visibly shaken, attempted to maintain his dignity as he was led past a gauntlet of news cameras outside. In the executive conference room, Zara found 24 employees waiting nervously, the entire crew of Flight AC-1432. Captain Wilson sat rigidly at the head of the table, while Brandon, Cassidy, and Melissa huddled together at the far end. All fell silent as Zara entered. "You may be wondering why you're here," she began, her voice measured and controlled. "Each of you participated in discrimination and negligence that nearly cost me my life. In most companies, this would simply be the day you lose your jobs." She paused, noting their expressions ranging from defiance to fear. "But this is not most companies anymore. This is now part of a corporation that will set new standards for accountability and inclusion in the transportation industry." She activated the room's video system, connecting to every Hamilton Airlines terminal, office, and break room worldwide. Thousands of employees were about to witness what happened next. Effective immediately, Zara announced to both the room and the company-wide audience, every member of Flight AC-1432's crew is terminated for gross misconduct, discriminatory behavior, and willful negligence endangering passenger safety. The announcement sent shockwaves through the room. Captain Wilson began to protest, but Zara continued without acknowledging him. "This company will no longer tolerate discrimination in any form. Today marks the end of Hamilton Airlines as you knew it." She outlined the transformation that would begin immediately. The company would be renamed Ascendant Airlines, with a new mission focused on inclusive excellence. Every employee would undergo comprehensive anti-bias training. Compensation structures would be revised to reward positive passenger experiences rather than punishing targeted travelers. "Dr. Elaine Murphy will head our new passenger advocacy division," she announced, as Dr. Murphy joined her at the front of the room. "Any passenger concerns about discriminatory treatment will go directly to her team, with full investigative authority." Dana Roberts, the whistleblower who had exposed the Special Service Program, was introduced as the new Vice President of Cultural Transformation. Ms. Roberts showed exceptional courage in standing up for what's right, even at personal risk. Zara explained, "That's exactly the kind of leadership this company needs." As the terminated crew was escorted from the building, Zara moved to the CEO's office, Richard Hamilton's former domain. The space reeked of privilege, from the rare artwork to the antique furniture. Within hours, she had transformed it into a functional workspace, replacing Hamilton's imposing mahogany desk with a modern conference table where her integration team could collaborate openly. By evening, the first changes were already visible throughout the company. The Hamilton Airlines logo was being removed from everything from airport counters to letterhead. Email announcements detailing the new corporate structure landed in every employee's inbox. Most significant was the establishment of the Ascendant Foundation, funded with $50 million of the former company's discretionary budget. This foundation will support minority entrepreneurs facing discrimination and systemic barriers, Zara announced at a press conference. "What happened to me happens to people without my resources every day. The foundation will ensure they don't fight alone." 3 days later, the merger with Global Tech was finalized, creating an integrated technology and transportation conglomerate valued at $42 billion, the largest minority-owned business enterprise in American history. Richard Hamilton, meanwhile, had more pressing concerns than his lost company. Federal investigators had uncovered evidence of years of financial impropriety beyond the short selling of Secure Vision stock. The SEC filed formal charges of securities fraud, and the Justice Department was pursuing criminal conspiracy and wire fraud charges. His empire was collapsing as former associates rushed to make immunity deals in exchange for testimony. 2 weeks after the takeover, Zara boarded an Ascendant Airlines flight to London for meetings with international partners. The newly trained crew treated every passenger with impeccable respect. The first-class meal service included fresh, properly prepared options for every dietary preference. As the plane reached cruising altitude, Zara gazed out the window at the clouds below. She thought about the long journey that had brought her here, not just the physical distance from her childhood neighborhood to the executive suite, but the barriers she had overcome along the way. What Richard Hamilton had intended as a humiliating experience designed to remind her of her place had instead become the catalyst for unprecedented change. She had transformed a moment of discrimination into an opportunity for systemic reformation. As the flight attendant, part of the airline's newly diverse crew, offered her a drink with genuine courtesy, Zara allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Justice had been served, just like that fateful meal, but this time to those who truly deserved it. The story of Dr. Zara Washington offers powerful lessons about confronting discrimination in the modern age. First, it teaches us that racism doesn't disappear as you climb the ladder of success. Sometimes it simply becomes more sophisticated and systemic. Even as a billionaire CEO, Zara faced prejudice that nearly cost her life, reminding us that no amount of achievement fully shields people from bias. Second, it demonstrates that modern discrimination often hides behind corporate policies and practices designed to seem neutral while targeting specific groups. The Special Service Program shows how institutions can weaponize racial bias while maintaining plausible deniability. Third, Zara's story highlights the critical importance of documentation and evidence. By recording interactions, preserving evidence, and building a network of witnesses, she transformed what could have been dismissed as a subjective experience into an undeniable pattern of misconduct. Perhaps most importantly, this story illustrates that true change requires moving beyond individual incidents to address systemic problems. Rather than settling for an apology or compensation, Zara recognized that meaningful transformation required changing the power structure itself. Finally, it reminds us that justice sometimes requires extraordinary measures. By using her resources, expertise, and connections to take control of the very company that discriminated against her, Zara didn't just seek redress for herself. She created a new model that would protect countless others from similar treatment. The ultimate lesson is that combating discrimination isn't just about responding to individual acts of bias. It's about recognizing and dismantling the systems that enable such behavior to flourish in the first place. What moment in this story resonated with you the most? Was it when Zara faced discrimination despite her success? When the airline tried to destroy her reputation? Or when she turned the tables and took control? Comment below with the part that moved you most deeply. Have you ever witnessed or experienced discrimination that others tried to dismiss? Like this video, if you believe in standing up against injustice, no matter how powerful your opponent. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories of triumph over adversity and discrimination. Share this video with someone who needs to understand that racism still exists at every level of society, but also that it can be fought with courage, strategy, and determination. Thank you for watching, and remember, true justice isn't just about surviving discrimination. It's about creating systems where it can no longer thrive.